Before I start recording any of these videos, what I would do is sit down, write down my script, think about what I'm gonna say and when I'm gonna say it. But how many books you should read a week, a month, or across the span of a whole year, it's not exactly rocket science. And a huge disclaimer, we're only going to be discussing nonfiction books, books that you're reading with the goal of getting some useful knowledge and hopefully improve your life. We're not going to be discussing fiction where you're consuming that content with the goal of pure entertainment. With this being said, let's get into the intro. My name is Niki, and it doesn't really matter what I do for a living because it's not relevant to this specific video, but I'm one of those people who loves consuming content and reading books. And I've read, okay, I have no idea how many books I've read, but probably quite a lot. Just realized this. As a kid, I was one of those kids that during the summertime, when they give you in high school the list of books that you should read before the next school year, I would try and get my hands on as many of those books and read as much as I can. Mostly because I was a dumb kid and I didn't realize that most of the other kids didn't care about this and it would give you no advantage most of the times. But anyways, the point is, read a lot of books and over the past couple of decades, learned what is the difference between mindlessly consuming content and actually consuming content with the goal of getting some practical knowledge and changing your life. So let's first address the elephant in the room. There's this notion within the self-help community that you should be reading a book a week. I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. Let's just say that you have this strategy of consuming as much content within a given period of time as you can. But let's start with the advantages. So it's a very useful strategy. I'm going to call it the shotgun strategy because you're probably going from book to book and you're probably consuming different types of content. And it's probably because you're at a point in your life where you just don't know where to start from. Maybe you're in your teens or early 20s, or maybe because you already accomplished a lot in a specific field and now you're looking on to the next thing, but you're not sure where to start from. So maybe you're just exploring a ton of different topics, or you're exploring a single topic but different niches. Very good idea to get a sense of where you are, what are your options. So a good analogy is, think of a video game where you just start a new level and you just having your character go around and trying to explore the dungeon or level or whatever and try to uncover as much of the map as you can. So you're not really concerned with something specific, completing a quest, hunting for items, killing monsters or something like this. It doesn't really matter. You're just trying to get a sense of the scope of the level and what is where and what are your options. Super useful. But the biggest downside of this strategy is that when it comes to just consuming content, it's very hard to memorize all the information, especially if you're exposed to new ideas by hopping from book to book to book, especially if they're not very much related. So when it comes to memory, the more you're exposed to a certain idea or an event or whatever, you're going to remember it and it's going to go into a long-term memory. If you only read about something, some idea just once, you may not memorize it. It's not going to go into a long-term memory, at least most of the time, especially if you're overwhelmed with having a ton of information going through your brain. Biggest, as you can probably guess here, biggest problem is all the information overload means that you're not remembering a ton. Second thing is, just because you understand something doesn't mean that you internalize that information. Something that I didn't say in the beginning, but I work as a fitness coach. And a lot of times we're having discussions with the clients where I explain my specific idea, but while they understand on a logical level, they haven't internalized that information. So whenever they're in a relevant situation, they end up either messing up or doing the complete opposite. Because what makes sense may not be what you do when you're in that situation. Your programming, your internal programming is totally different. You've been acting a certain way during most of your life, so changing how you act, even if you know that you should act in a different way, it's a completely different thing. So that's why when you're exploring different topics, when you're hopping from book to book, first off, you don't memorize a lot of that information. Second of all, you're not internalizing it. And lastly, you are probably also not putting it into use. So just hoarding information, there's not a lot of sense in it. Are you even trying those ideas? Are you taking the time to put the book down and actually go and do whatever the book suggests? Because that's the biggest thing. And a lot of times the information could be flawed. It may not work for you for some reason, or maybe there's like conflicting ideas and you're not really sure which is the right one. So that's why you need to test. A lot of times these are just hypotheses or different strategies. Test them out, see what actually works or what works at least for you. Second problem with this, let's call it the shotgun approach, where you're consuming a ton of content in a very short period of time, is that it gives you a sense that you're accomplishing something where in reality you're not getting anywhere. It's a bit of a mental masturbation in a way. So you're reading a ton of books, it feels like, oh my god, I'm achieving a lot, I'm learning a ton, but as you probably already understand, this is not the case most of the time. You're just getting overwhelmed, you're not memorizing a ton, you're not implementing, you're just wasting your time. If you want to be entertained, just go for some fiction books or watch some TV, Netflix, whatever. So don't go for this false sense of getting stuff done, because you're not. On to the next strategy that is more focused on what you're actually getting, learning, and implementing, not so much on the quantity of the content that you're consuming. So it's more of we have the shotgun approach, let's call this the sniper approach. In this case, you probably have an idea of where you're going, you have a direction, you have a field that you want to explore, you have a niche that you want to focus on. In this case, it doesn't really matter how many books you're reading. It's about what you're getting, which means that sometimes you may spend a whole month, even a couple of months, just on a single book. It doesn't really matter, as much time as you need. Sometimes you have to go through the book a couple of times. Sometimes you may have to review certain chapters multiple times. Sometimes you may have to go back to that book after a couple of years. And sometimes when something is not clear, you may want to explore other similar books or other similar content, compare ideas, see something else, or at least read something else from the same person who wrote that first book. Whatever gets you closer to understanding the ideas and implementing those ideas. And this way you refine your approach. With the shotgun approach and the sniper approach, it's still these are still viable strategies. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to get a sense of where you are and trying to get a direction, or you already have that direction, you want to just dig deeper and actually get stuff done, learn something. And that's pretty much it, a short video. I hope you enjoyed it. And a last piece of advice, if you're interested in some fiction, I would highly recommend exploring the Warhammer 40K universe. Amazing, best sci-fi universe out there. And yeah, that's it. That's all for today, guys. Until next time, cheers.